I shouldn't be sharing this with you. And in fact, I'm doing something that not many others are brave enough to do because the truth about power, the raw, unvarnished truth, isn't for everyone. It's nasty. It's risky. And once you've heard it, you can't make yourself unhear it. We're living in a culture that idolizes kindness, fairness, and goodness. But Machiavelli saw the game for what it really is. Power does not reward virtue. It rewards cunning masquerading as virtue. The powerful play not by the rules. They create them. They smile in your face as they slit your throat. They make you think they're noble while they use you as a pawn. Most folks will never learn that because they cannot handle it. They're too scared to examine the way the world really is. But if you're still reading this, then you're ready to discover what everyone else is too blind or too weak to face. What I am about to share with you is not advice, it's a weapon, and if you use it wisely, it'll transform your life for good. Folks love to clothe power in white robes. They would rather think the successful rose, for they were truthful, noble, and virtuous. This is the fairy tale the world keeps telling itself, so it can sleep soundly in the night. But Machiavelli laid that delusion bare. He observed what most would not see. Power is never pure, never clean, never innocent. Every throne has blood beneath it. Every fortune contains secrets hidden within it. Each woman or man at the top stepped over someone in order to arrive there, whether they will own up to it or not. The history books may gloss over their reputation, but if you look hard enough, you'll discover betrayal, deception, intimidation, and force. That is the real basis of power. The weak despise hearing this, because it crushes their comforting illusions. They wish to think that good gets the victory, that virtue comes up by nature, that the most virtuous man always wins. If so, then this world would be under saintly rule. But take a glance around you. Is it saints who reign, or gentlemen predators? Machiavelli knew something basic. Power isn't conferred upon the patient who waits. It is taken by the people who are willing to do that which others are not. Those who cling to innocence as if it's armor are always the first to be destroyed, because innocence doesn't protect you, it exposes you. The powerful know this. That's why they learn to play two roles at once, the benevolent face in public and the ruthless strategist in private. They sign treaties while plotting wars. They shake hands while planning betrayals. They give speeches on justice and hone the knife backstage. And here's the worst part. Individuals accept them. They accept the smile. They accept the words. They never question what is actually going on backstage, because they wish to believe power is clean. It comforts them. But you are not here to be comfortable. You are here to awaken. You are here to know that behind each empire, behind each CEO, behind each politician, there is a bookkeeper writing in deceit and opportunism. Not that they're evil for the sake of evil, but because that's what survival at the top costs. When you realize this truth, you stop asking the wrong questions. You cease to wonder, how can I win without being at all guilty? And begin to wonder, what shall I do to win? This doesn't imply that you have to become brazenly cruel. Indeed, that's the blunder of amateurs. They reveal their fangs too soon. True power does not advertise its ruthlessness. It conceals it beneath charm, generosity, and seeming virtue. That's why Machiavelli urged leaders to become skilled at seeming merciful, loyal, and truthful, even if the situation compels them to do otherwise. You don't need to love lying, you need to be able to master it, because if you won't use it, someone who will use it will destroy you. The world will not be kind to you for being good. It will exploit you, use you, and discard you, after praising the clever man who snatched what you were worthy of. The shadowy reality is this: power doesn't corrupt, it exposes. It indicates who will dirty their hands to maintain it. It indicates who recognizes that each crown comes with an embedded dagger. If you wish to ascend, remove the illusion that power is pure. Stop believing the myths. Begin to examine the world, as Machiavelli did, unemotionally, graphically, without sentiment. That's the only way you'll notice how the game is actually played, and why the good guys never get out alive. We prefer to think that corruption is a blemish, an aberration, a defect in an otherwise virtuous system, but that's the comforting fiction. Corruption is not the exception. Corruption is the system. Wherever power converges, it warps everything else towards it. Money, favors, influence. They don't just adhere to power, they energize it. All the laws, all the institutions, all the lofty-sounding ideals come to be used as implements by those who have mastered how to use them. And those that will not play, they get pushed aside, silenced, annihilated. Citizens envision corruption in the form of briefcases full of cash under tables, illicit handshakes in dark alleys. But true corruption is larger and much more insidious. It's whole governments enacting legislation benefiting the powerful. It's firms authoring regulations they must abide by. It's politicians trading favors, not because they're malevolent, but because that's the way the game is played. Machiavelli was aware of this much earlier than contemporary politics. He knew that princes don't retain power through virtues, they retain power through effectiveness. And effectiveness always involves compromise. A prince may talk of justice, but in the privacy of his chambers, he's rewarding faithful friends, punishing unfaithful ones, and negotiating to keep his throne. Theoretically, corruption occurs when one transgresses the rules. Practically, the mighty set the rules to allow for their own corruption. What appears illegal to you is legal for them. They do not cheat the system. They are the system. That's why every empire, every government, every corporation eventually rots from within, not because people are unusually wicked, but because power attracts ambition, and ambition always demands reward. The longer someone holds power, the more they use it to protect themselves, their allies, and their wealth. This isn't just ancient history. Look around today. Politicians leave office richer than they entered. Regulators get well-paid posts in the very sectors they were intended to regulate. Public funds disappear into the private sector, and hollering about serving the people reverberates in marble halls. Is this a failure? No, it's the natural order of power. The most Machiavellian leaders do not combat corruption. They administer it. They keep it tidy, predictable, and in their hands. They determine who profits and who gets punished. They ensure no opposition becomes so strong that the rot gets beyond their control. They don't eradicate rot. They ensure they are the ones controlling it. What is this telling anyone who wants power? Give up the idea of clean hands holding the reins. If you rise high enough, you will compromise. You will sacrifice ideals for survival, and you will rationalize because everyone does. The master trick that leaders ever played was that they led the people to believe that corruption is an exception, that evildoers sometimes taint a good system. The truth is, the system is created to cover up its own handlers. When one gets caught, one is not penalized for being corrupt. One is penalized for being sloppy. We like to think that information is free, that truth tends to spread and level the playing field. But history proves otherwise. Information has always been the prerogative of the mighty, and they get to determine who finds out what. Princes ruled kingdoms centuries ago, not only with swords but with couriers and spies. They knew who was conspiring, who was loyal, who was secretly sharpening a dagger. Machiavelli knew this. A king who knows all but tells nothing has a secret weapon no army can compete with. Information was not given away, it was accumulated, and when it leaked on purpose. Today, the world makes believe that transparency is the norm. Politicians talk about open government, companies vow accountability, but the trend remains the same. Only the tools have changed. Those in power still control what's seen and what's unseen. A press conference lets you see the slice of the picture they'd like you to see. A quarterly report lets you see the figures they'd like you to think. The other is buried, sealed, or classified. The strong always ensure that they know more about you than you know about them. That's why governments construct systems of surveillance. That's why corporations monitor all your clicks, all your searches, all your buys. They're not accumulating information to save you. They're accumulating information to control you. to anticipate your conduct, to mold it, and if the need arises, to use it against you. In the meantime, what do you know about them? What do you actually know about the guys at the very top? The ones who are signing the orders, the prices, the laws. You hear their speeches, see their press pictures, the well-crafted scandals. You do not hear their private discussions, their backroom deals, or the skeletons buried deep in their closets. History's greatest leaders knew this, to the letter. Emperor Augustus was aware of all his competitors in Rome, whom they encountered, what they intended, yet hiding his intentions for himself. Great traders from Venice protected routes of trade like state secrets, eliminating anyone who attempted to publish them. Even today, intelligence departments have overthrown governments, not by shooting a single bullet, but by having one truth that no one else was privy to. No one thinks that lies are the most powerful tool in politics. They're mistaken. It is silence that's more powerful. If you have information flow under your command, you needn't lie even. You just choose which facts to release and which to keep hidden. Enemies lash out in the dark and strike blindly at shadows, while you've already decided the victor. That's why power goes hand in hand with secrecy. Leaders who talk too freely lose their grip. Leaders who know too little are replaced. Those who survive are the ones who learn everything, tell nothing, and give the public just enough truth to keep them complacent. It's no coincidence that whistleblowers are viewed as threats. It's no coincidence that honest leaks are few, and the ones you hear about usually further someone's secret agenda. When you control what information the masses get, you control what they're afraid of, what they want, and what they perceive as real. The cold reality is this: truth itself is not powerful, controlled truth is, and the powerful will always determine which version of reality prevails. We speak of justice as if it were chiseled into marble. We speak of truth as if it were somehow above politics, inaccessible. But truth doesn't write history. History is written by the one standing. Machiavelli knew this in cold-limbed clarity. A victorious leader is a visionary. A defeated leader is a tyrant. The deeds are indistinguishable: betrayal, coercion, murder. But the judgment varies according to who's standing to give testimony. Consider the names engraved on monuments. How many of them would still be remembered if their foes had lived to set the record straight? Julius Caesar seized the Roman Republic by violence, but Rome hailed him as a savior. Napoleon proclaimed himself emperor and was hailed as a genius until he failed, and his foes labeled him a monster. Power doesn't only dominate the present, it extends backward in time and revises history. That's why tyrants are afraid more than of death itself, of erasure. Not losing power means your reign doesn't end. It erases your take on things. Your triumphs disappear. Your name turns to poison. You're no longer a hero but a warning. People think history is objective because it is written down in books, cut into marble, kept in computer archives. But each generation has its censors. Ancient emperors carved opponents' names from statues. Medieval kings reedited histories to make their houses look better. Even today, in the age of perpetual cameras, accounts still skew toward whoever's in charge. Records go missing. Files get buried. Official accounts overwrite ugly truths. The truth does not persist by itself. It must be born, and only the powerful have the wherewithal to bear it. If you get knocked down, your truth goes down with you. The winners preserve their truth by sponsoring historians, ordering statues, donating libraries. They ensure the succeeding generation is taught the proper version of events. That is why Machiavelli recommended that leaders not care to be loved, but to remain in power. Love declines. Legitimacy may be challenged, but victory rescripts all. No one inquires about how you reached the top if you hang around long enough to make it seem foreordained. No one labels you cruel if you're the reason they have to eat. No one labels you a liar if you write the history books. Observe closely how this is done. When a ruler slaughters competitors, it's tyranny until sufficient time has elapsed. Then it's called ordering. If a conqueror sets cities afire, it is barbarism, unless his empire lasts long enough to construct universities, at which point it becomes civilization, treachery becomes necessary action, ambition becomes service. The dark lesson is easy to learn. It isn't about being right, it's about being last. When your foes are dead, your version of things is the only one that matters. There's no one left to contradict you. And when the dust settles, people don't care about the details. They want stability, not accuracy. They want a story that makes sense. The victor is always happy to provide one and to punish anyone who doesn't repeat it. This isn't just ancient history. Even now, governments topple foreign regimes and later explain it as liberation. Companies crush competitors and call it innovation. Leaders turn back on themselves totally and label it evolving with the times, provided you hold on to power long enough. History rewrites itself to make you appear wise, so keep this in mind. The moral verdict of history isn't decreed by some divine tribunal. It's decreed by whoever gets to write the final page. Those who remain alive determine who was righteous, who was evil, and who simply fades away, and the world accepts their verdict, because no one is left to refute it. Others are afraid of chaos, because it appears dangerous. Protest-ridden streets, governments in shambles, markets tanking. It's the apocalypse, but for power-hungry people, chaos is not destruction, it's possibility. Machiavelli understood that stable societies pin power down. The chain is set, the laws are codified, and the elites above have no desire to permit anyone to ascend. During peace, ambition is a sin. Individuals who aspire to rise higher are advised to wait their turn, but their turn never arrives. Stability defends rulers, not rivals. It's a trap for anyone who desires something greater than they've been handed. Chaos alters everything. When the old regime collapses, nobody cares about rules anymore. People no longer ask whether you can seize power, but whether you're capable enough to keep it. An intelligent, cunning individual can rise higher in 1 year of revolution than he can in 20 years of stability. History affirms it time and time again. Revolutions honor the bold and not the patient or the virtuous. When the Roman Republic descended into civil war, men such as Caesar took hold while prudent senators fretted. When Europe blazed in the 20th century, faceless men came to absolute power within a matter of months, merely because they dared to act when others were frozen into immobility. Chaos is perilous for the masses, but it's rich soil for the ambitious. While commoners hold on to safety, great players strike quickly, make deals, and risk everything others won't. They understand that once the smoke has dissipated, nobody cares how you seized power. They only recall who possessed it. The stability, however, is a deceiver. It is safe, but it quietly strangles those hoping to ascend. In peaceful moments, institutions protect the status quo. Laws guard the already powerful ones. Careers proceed on loyalty, not achievement. Every step is watched, every aspiration penalized. Threaten the people at the top, and you're smothered silently before you start. That's why powerful individuals secretly dread anarchy, not because it harms the people, but because it topples their throne, and that's why those who would like to replace them secretly pray for it. War, crisis, famine, economic collapse. These are backdoors to power, dressed up as catastrophes. Naturally, chaos is dangerous. It doesn't promise success. It merely provides the cold-blooded with an opportunity to attempt it. Many get hurt ascending that ladder. But this is the thing, the ones who make it through rise quickly. There is no slow build-up, no waiting for decades to be granted permission in chaos. You take what you can as fast as you can, and if you succeed, you get to make the new rules. Once you're at the top, it shifts again. Now chaos is no longer an ally, now it's against you, and just as you once employed turmoil to ascend, you will now employ stability in order to capture everyone else. You'll fortify laws, tighten borders, censor information, and create systems to hold ambitious competitors in place where they are. You'll construct your own cage, but not for you, for them. This is the cadence of power: disorder to ascend, order to reign. Those who know it prosper, those who do not perish, fantasizing a just world that never exists. The dark reality is plain. Disorder is not the nemesis of power. It's where power is born, but only for the cruel who rise while the rest of us are stuck trying to live. We like to convince ourselves that humans will fight for freedom, no matter what, that freedom is humanity's greatest aspiration. History doesn't have the same story to tell. When there's a sense of fear in the air, freedom is gone. They say they wish to think independently, be free from shackles, and act independently. But what they actually yearn for, deep within their marrow, is protection, safety, a promise that tomorrow will be like today. Freedom is dangerous. Freedom is uncertainty. And when threatened, most men will surrender their freedom for security with the utmost eagerness. This isn't a hypothesis. It's a trend. When communities sense that they are threatened by war, by hunger, by financial ruin, they tend to turn to powerful leaders, to authoritarian laws, to monitoring and oppression. They applaud it. They call for it. And the ones who deliver it, no matter how brutal, are hailed as saviors, not dictators. Machiavelli realized that 500 years ago, he said a prince should serve to safeguard his subjects, but not exactly to make them free. If they feel secure, they won't mind how he secures them. And in fact, they'll pardon nearly everything: oppressive taxation, strict laws, even blatant corruption, as long as they can sleep peacefully at night without fear. Examine any crisis in the past. In the downfall of the Roman Republic, citizens rallied behind emperors who offered bread and circuses instead of the messy ambiguity of elections. In the 20th century, threatened nations coalesced behind presidents who took away liberties in the interest of national security. Individuals who previously yelled about freedom pleaded for somebody to step in, anyone who would quell the disorder. Why does that occur? Because liberty is responsibility, and the majority of individuals do not want it. It is difficult work to govern oneself, to decide oneself, to bear the repercussions. Security, however, seems simple. When a mighty man says, "I'll take care of it," just comply. It's an irresistible bargain. This is why leaders who grasp the fear are so successful. They need not deprive people of freedom. The masses will give it up willingly. Simply threaten them with outsiders, with crime, with chaos, and they'll take nearly any step provided it guarantees protection. The cage is cozy when the rest of the world appears to be perilous. The dark, sad reality: the majority of individuals do not realize when freedom vanishes. They realize only when security vanishes. Remove a man's freedom, and he complains. Remove his security, and he riots. A leader who grants security will always be pardoned for stealing liberty. Even now, in contemporary democracies, this rule holds true. Citizens speak endlessly of rights and privacy until there is an attack, a crisis, or a catastrophe. Then they clamor for tighter laws, enforcement, control. Politicians are aware of this. They take advantage of it. They offer protection. And in return they take more power for themselves quietly. Some Machiavelli would call this not evil. It is human nature. People are led by fear much more than by principle. An astute leader doesn't bother trying to get them to love freedom. He works on getting them to feel safe. He provides them with symbols of safety: walls, soldiers, police, surveillance, and they pay him back in obedience. The paradox is heartless. The people who yell the loudest about freedom tend to be the first to relinquish it when they perceive vulnerability. They believe that freedom is their birthright, but security is their drug, and rulers who understand this addiction can control entire nations without firing a shot. The lesson is clear. If you want to rule, don't promise freedom, promise security. And if you want to stay in power, make sure the people believe danger is always near, so they'll keep running back to your protection, even if it costs them everything. Most people want to think that loyalty is the basis of power, that if you take care of people, they'll be with you forever. It's a nice myth. But the past tells us something harder. Loyalty dissolves. Fear persists. Machiavelli said that a leader should desire to be loved and feared, but if he had to make the choice, Fear is safer. Love is mushy. It fluctuates with mood, with gossip, with time. They will applaud you when you're powerful, but leave you the instant you appear weak. Fear doesn't require applause. Fear doesn't require feeding. Fear resides in the stomach, unshakable by thankfulness or words. Consider fallen leaders of the past. Many were first beloved, the type who kissed babies, gave extravagant presents, smiled for the masses. But in time of strife, their supporters vanished. Courtiers changed sides. Soldiers deserted. Their closest friends were the first to make deals with their enemies. Why? Because love is cheap. Fear pays a price. Fear isn't about sadism for its own sake. It's about certainty. A leader who is feared never has to wonder where people are at. They might conspire against you in private, but they conform in public. They may resent you, but they think twice before betraying you. Loyalty is a handshake. Fear is a chain. This doesn't mean terrorizing everyone around you. A wise ruler uses fear sparingly, like a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. Too much fear breeds desperation, and desperate people become dangerous. But just enough fear makes hesitation instinctive. People pause before crossing you. They calculate the cost, and most conclude that it's not worth paying. Even in contemporary politics and commerce, this is true. Those who govern with charm and popularity are at risk the moment public sentiment is different. But those who rule by respect due to consequence, the quiet recognition that treachery will be painful, don't have to plead for allegiance. People obey them not because they desire to, but because they must. Fear is also a longer-lasting thing than memory. People will forget favors. They forget kindness. They even forget shared victories. But they never forget what happened to the last person who betrayed you. One public example, a single ruthless move, can echo longer than years of goodwill. It whispers in halls and boardrooms, "Don't try it. You know how this ends." The dark reality is this: loyalty binds people to you, only as long as you continue to give them what they desire. Fear binds them to you, even when they despise you, and when you finally lose power, because everyone does, you'll see which one was genuine. Those who loved you will disappear. Those who feared you will stay far away, not because they care, but because they still remember. Machiavelli never idealized human nature. He was aware that people behave in their own interest first, and the ruler should mold that interest. Fear is the easiest method to do so. If it is more costly to betray than to reward, people remain loyal even if they hate you. Therefore, whereas soft-hearted rulers wish to be loved, hard-headed rulers make themselves feared, and only one of them sleeps soundly. Power is not what we learn to think. It's not honorable, it's not just, and it's never pure. If you've been reading through this series, you've witnessed the mask being stripped away. Leaders aren't motivated by virtue. They're motivated by survival, and the weapons they wield, fear, domination, manipulation, are not happenstance. They're the very driving forces of power. The question is, now that you understand the truth, what are you going to do with it? You can avert your eyes, return to the soothing fantasy that good triumphs because it is good. Or you can continue to learn how the game is actually played, because when you know the rules, you are more difficult to manipulate. You cease to be a pawn and begin to think as a player. If these ugly truths opened your eyes, don't stop here. Hit like, subscribe, and enable notifications, not because it feeds the algorithm, but because it keeps you connected to knowledge most people never hear or don't want to hear. The powerful already grasp these lessons. The question is, will you remain sharp? Stay watching, because in the game of power, there's always another,